Well, good morning and welcome to Talkback Tuesday. My name is Jordan Minnick Keesbo, and I have the privilege of serving as the pastor of Vermilion First United Methodist Church. We're so thankful you're taking a little bit of time on Tuesday or whenever it is that you're watching this to connect with our community and be part of the conversation that we are trying to facilitate here at Vermilion First United Methodist. So, if you're new to us, for Lent this year, we are participating in a study on a book called Multiplying Love by Paul Chilcote, who is a United Methodist scholar. And this book is seeking to kind of cast a vision of what United Methodist life could look like in the coming days. If we focus first and foremost on how do we increase and multiply love within our churches and within our communities. So this past Sunday, if you were with us, you know that we had a talk from Reverend Lori Kantanen, who is the North Star District Superintendent in the Minnesota Conference. And Reverend Kantanen spoke about what she is seeing and ways that this is being fleshed out in the churches that she serves, of churches not being committed to the old way of doing things, and instead leaning into the ways that God is seeking to do something new. And it was fun for us as a congregation. If you're with us, and if you weren't with us, go back and watch the conversation. It was a fruitful conversation as we sought to take the message that Reverend Kantanen brought and then apply it to our context in Vermilion at this time. And it was so good just to kind of reflect on the ways that one, we are already seeing God do some of these things. We shared about our social justice choir, and if you're tired of hearing about our social justice choir, well, too bad, because what God is doing there and what is happening in that group is incredible. We shared about how 2 years ago we decided to move that out of a Sunday morning, primarily Sunday morning experience, and instead make that a community connecting point for people to sing and to sing songs about topics that matter, and how that has gone from like 12 people when we made that shift now up to nearly 30 in the matter of 2 years. More than doubled, almost tripled. And we're seeing God do these things in our own community as we've started to do a dinner church once a month, and we start actually being in relationship with each other, building relationships, having conversations, knowing each other, which seems like such a basic concept, but in our world, in our social media world, post-pandemic, post-lockdowns, actually interacting with real people is not something we do as much as we have for much of human history. And so how can the church be a place that fosters this connection? A place where not only you can be seen and known, but where you can see and know others. And so we had this really great conversation. And I don't think we've had any comments. I'm jumping real quick on Facebook and YouTube to see if anyone has added in anything. And they haven't at this point. But if you're interested in this conversation about what might the future of the United Methodist Church look like, I would invite you to pick up Dr. Chilcote's book and join us either online or in person for these conversations around where we sense God may be calling us as a larger movement, as a larger body of Christ, and how we, in our unique context, can live out this message of love and inclusion and care. I was encouraged as we watched this first talk that conversations around our LGBTQ AI2S plus siblings was brought into this conversation early. As you know, our church, the broader United Methodist Church, is in a season of splintering around some of these conversations around how do we best be true to who God is calling us to be. And there are churches like ours that have said we are at our best when the fullness of humanity, including various gender and sexual orientations, are present within our community. And there are others who have said no. And I'm not here to get into a conversation around this topic right now. If you want to have that conversation, shoot me an email. I'll buy you a cup of coffee and I'll explain to you how our church sees our call to live out the message of Jesus applying directly to our inclusion of our LGBTQ AI2S plus siblings. Again, I realize that's not for everyone, but that is a way that we have chosen and have interpreted Jesus' words about caring for the least of these as an essential part of who our church is. And so it was encouraging for us as a church that has been on this journey for more than 20 years. We've been a reconciling congregation, which is the group of United Methodists working towards greater inclusion since 2005. But to get to that point, it was a multi-year process. And so we've been in this conversation for a long time, and we've kind of come to a place where we're comfortable with. And so to see the conference and the broader United Methodist conversations coming closer together with our church at this point was so encouraging for me. And again, I'm not here to tell you how you're supposed to run your church or run your faith, but I'm just so grateful that we as a church, at a broader church, not just here in Vermilion, but in the Dakotas and around the world, are saying we want to be the church for this time and for this place and for these people, whatever that looks like, and allowing each of our congregations to define that for themselves. So it was a great first chapter. Again, if you haven't read along, it's not too late. You can pick up this book on Amazon. I like to read digitally, so I've got it on my phone in my Kindle, and I can just read it when I'm laying down for 5 minutes and take a part of a chapter and a few pages, or before I go to bed, I'll read a little bit. But it's a beautiful, well-written vision of the possibilities, of a prophetic vision of what the church could be. And so we'd invite you to join us on that journey. This week, we have some stuff happening at the church. We have our Thursday night social justice choir, which, again, we love what's happening there. And as I said on Sunday, which may get me in trouble with Chris, even if you're not a great singer, but you love music and want to connect with people, come join us 5:30 Thursday night in the sanctuary. We'd love to have you part of what is happening there. That group has no Sunday responsibility. So if you want to sing but don't want to come to church, we've got a place for you. At the end of the spring, there will be a showcase concert, which is always an amazing time to connect and hear great music, and that's open to the wider community. So we'd invite you to be part of our social justice choir. Worship is coming up this Sunday. We will meet, as we always do, at 4 o'clock in the sanctuary. That'll be in person and also live on Facebook and YouTube, our social media accounts. And then next Tuesday, we're going to do this again. And so if you, between now and then, have questions that come up, if you, as you read the chapter, have thoughts or insights you want to share, you can email Talitha, our office administrator, at office@vermilionfirst.com, or me, Jordan, at Vermilion First, or you can leave comments in the section on this video or on our worship from Sunday, and I'll be happy to address those, to engage with the ideas you have. Looking ahead, we are going to move on to chapter 2 in Chilcote's book. And the topic this week is going to be related to, the chapter title is Love in the Highest Order. And we'll have a short reflection from Reverend Rebecca Treffs, who is our district superintendent. She is the superintendent over the southeastern part of the Dakotas Conference, which includes some but not all of southeastern South Dakota. And she's going to bring some insights. And then we're going to talk as a community what this looks like and what this means for us to take that material and actually integrate it and contextualize it for what our community needs. So we would love to have you take time to join us if you're available. Or you can watch it anytime after the fact on YouTube and Facebook. Again, this week we're looking at chapter 2, titled Love is the Highest Gift. And one of the passages that I'd love to have you reflect on as we move towards Sunday is one that Chilcote looks at in this chapter. It comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If you've ever been to a wedding, you've probably heard this verse, and yet I think it's great for us to continue to reflect on it. And here's what Paul says in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. I'll throw that up on screen here real quick too. It's the highlighted section. So it says this: Love is patient, love is kind. It isn't jealous, it doesn't brag, it isn't arrogant, it isn't rude. It doesn't seek its own advantage, it isn't irritable. It doesn't keep records of complaints. It isn't happy with injustice, but it is happy with the truth. Love puts up with all things, trusts all things, hopes for all things, and endures all things. Well, that's the passage we're going to look at Sunday as we interact with chapter 2 of Paul Chilcote's Multiplying Love. Again, we'd love to have you join us in person or online for that discussion. And until next week, share this video, continue in the conversation, and we thank you for taking time to be part of Talkback Tuesday. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.